Hello friends, in this video we are going to look after DFT, that is discrete Fourier transform. You don't have to get confused between DTFT and DFT. I'll give you a complete clue how DFT has originated from DTFT. Let us begin. So first of all, we'll understand what was the motivation to start with DFT. Let us try to summarize what we have seen so far in DTFT. In discrete time Fourier transform, we used to had x of n signal, and after having DTFT of x of n, the signal that we get in frequency domain is capital X of e to the power j omega. Am I right? Now let us note down what was the nature of each signal in time domain also as well as in frequency domain. So in time domain, the nature of signal was discrete. So we have a discrete signal. Let me again remind you the concept. In a particular domain, if we discretize the signal, then in the other domain, signal becomes periodic. Therefore, since we have discrete signal in time domain, what we have in frequency domain is continuous signal as well as periodic. Please understand, if you discretize the signal in one domain, in other domain it becomes periodic. So in frequency domain, signal is continuous also as well as periodic also. So now let me tell you, in frequency domain, the signal that we have, it's continuous in nature. And let me tell you, a continuous signal is always difficult to processing as well as storing, processing, and therefore it is, as I said, inconvenient signal. So let me just write down what I said. Since x of e to the power j omega signal is continuous in nature, such signal is difficult to process as well as it is difficult to store also. So when it comes to storing, actually we are talking about semiconductor memories, that is memories that we use in digital circuits. So we know that when we talk about digital circuits and memory, we need to actually store it in digital form. If the signal is continuous in nature, first of all we need to discretize it, and then by the process of quantization we convert the signal into digital signal. Now the problem is, please understand, x of e to the power j omega signal, which is in frequency domain, since it is continuous in nature, you cannot use your computers to process the signal, as well as you cannot store the signal since it is in continuous form. So the problem lies that it is in continuous form. The problem is not that it is periodic, the problem is that it is a continuous one. And since it is continuous one, we need to discretize it, because until and unless we discretize the signal, we cannot process it with the help of softwares, as well as it is even impossible to store that signal in semiconductor memories for digital circuits. So you know what, the time has come to convert this continuous signal into discrete. So still I have not started with DFT. I have told you what is the problem of DTFT. In DTFT, the signal was in time domain, it was discrete in nature. So we know that this is a time domain. Once you transform it, it becomes x of e to the power j omega, that is frequency domain. But since in time domain it is discrete in nature, in frequency domain it becomes periodic, as well as we have seen even a response in last video lecture, it was continuous in nature. And in fact, you just look at this, it is not omega n, it is only omega. So when it is only omega, definitely it is continuous in nature. So x of e to the power j omega is continuous in nature. It is difficult to process, it is difficult to store. So time has come to discretize x of e to the power j omega. So let me just take some model example of x of e to the power j omega. So I'm just trying to show you some periodic signal over here. So what we have on x-axis is omega. We have 0 here, and the signal is x of e to the power j omega. This is just an assumption. It does not mean in frequency domain, if it is periodic, it is going to look like this. No, a shape could be different, but one thing is clear, that it would be continuous as well as periodic in nature. So this is just a model example I'm having. So let's say we have pi here, let's say we have 2 pi here, all positive frequencies on right hand side, and on left hand side of course we have negative frequencies, that is minus pi, minus 2 pi, and of course this will continue. So this is, let's say, the nature of x of e to the power j omega, which is continuous as well as periodic in nature. So let me write over here, it is continuous and periodic in nature. So as I said, since it is continuous, it is difficult to process with the help of software, as well as it is difficult to store in semiconductor memories which are present in digital circuits. So what we have to do, the only remedy is to discretize the given signal. So let us discretize the given signal. So once you discretize, let us try to draw a discretized version of the same signal. So I'm just trying to draw a discretized version of the above signal. Is that right? So of course, again, we are going to have some samples. So I'll concentrate on one cycle. So this is one cycle, am I right? From 0 to 2 pi, it is one cycle. And in this cycle, let's say I have taken n samples. N that I'm talking about, capital N. So I'm going to collect how many samples? N samples in general from one cycle. I hope you got my point. So when I'm saying one cycle, it is from 0 to 2 pi. So let's say I'm starting from here. Like that, I keep on collecting all the samples. The reason why I'm collecting n samples only from one cycle, because the same information is going to repeat. So there is absolutely no scope or not a requirement to have the same samples again and again. Am I right? Now, what I really want to know is spacing between two samples. So I want spacing between two samples. So it is a very simple mathematics. See to it. The length of one cycle is 2 pi. I repeat, the length of one cycle is 2 pi, because we are measuring from 0 to 2 pi. So of course, one cycle length, if you see, it is 2 pi. And then within this 2 pi, how many samples do we collect? Capital N samples. Then spacing between two consecutive samples would be definitely 2 pi divided by n. I hope it is clear. Once again, we have a complete cycle length equal to 2 pi. And within this cycle, we are collecting total capital N samples, then definitely spacing between two samples would be 2 pi by n. Meaning that, let's say this is a 0th sample, then this is a first sample spaced from 0th sample as 2 pi by n. Is that right? Then of course, the next would be located at 4 pi by n. The next would be located at 6 pi by n, and so on. I hope you're finding it easier. So I'll make it again easy for you. So again, I'll treat this 0 as 0. This is simply 2 pi by n. Can I say this is actually twice of 2 pi by n? Then this is thrice of 2 pi by n, and so on. I would say this is the nth sample, am I right? So since this is 0th sample, this is first sample, this is second sample, this is third sample, then of course when I am saying this is nth sample, it would be n times 2 pi by n, and this second last sample I can say it is n minus 1th sample. I hope the point is clear. So please understand, what we have on x-axis is now simply k, where k is varied from 0 to n, am I right? So it is varied from 0 to n. But then if you see carefully, the sample that you have at 0th position, see this is the sample I'm talking about at 0th position, the same and exact dicto sample is present at nth, am I right? So these two samples are same, therefore what we can do, I want only unique samples, so I'm going to reject this, and therefore I'm going to vary my k from 0 to n minus 1. So I'm going to collect the samples from 0 to n minus 1, and of course our plan was to collect only n samples. So when I'm collecting from 0 to n minus 1 sample, it means as good as I'm collecting n samples only. So k is varied from 0 to n minus 1 to collect how many samples? Of course n samples. I hope the point is clear, and I'm sure you have understood why do we have k on x-axis, because k indicates the sample number. First of all, sample number was 0, then sample number is 1, thereafter sample number is 2, then sample number is 3, and it is going up to n minus 1. So when I'm collecting the samples from 0 to n minus 1, it is as good as I'm collecting total n samples, and that was our plan. That is, from one cycle we had to collect n samples. So now this is a discretized version of x of e to the power j omega. Let me write the nature of the signal. So now the signal is discrete, and of course it is periodic. Now try to understand. This is what we called as frequency domain. Am I right? And in frequency domain, you try to discretize the signal. I repeat, in frequency domain, you try to discretize the signal. The reason why we discretize the signal, we know that we have already discussed in the last PPT. Now the point is, here it is in frequency domain and we have discretized the signal, and we know the theory that we have learned in sampling theorem, that irrespective which domain it is, in a particular domain, if you try to discretize the signal, in another domain signal becomes periodic. I repeat, in a particular domain, if you discretize the signal, in the another domain it becomes periodic. It means when I'm saying that in frequency domain my signal is discrete in nature, then definitely in time domain signal will become periodic. Let me just write it over here. X of e to the power j omega is now discretized in which domain? Of course in frequency domain. So now in time domain it becomes continuous. So when you are moving to time domain, it would become periodic in nature, and again it is not continuous. Of course it is discrete only, as well as discrete, it is not continuous. So x of e to the power j omega was the signal which was continuous as well as periodic. We have tried to discretize in frequency domain. You know the reason why we have done this. Am I right? So here, if you remember, we had the formula for x of e to the power j omega. What was the formula? It was summation. N is varied from minus infinity to plus infinity. X of n e to the power minus j omega n. This was the formula for DTFT. I hope you understood this. Now you know what? Since we have done a discretization of the signal, now what has happened is your omega is now changed to k times 2 pi by n. If you remember, your k was varied from 0, 1, 2 and so on. It can be varied up to n minus 1 in order to collect n samples. If you remember, 2 pi by n was a spacing between two samples and k indicates a sample number. Therefore, you have to replace your omega as k times 2 pi by capital N. Am I right? So let us substitute this. Therefore, your formula will become n is now varied from 0 to only n minus 1. Why? Because we had to collect only n samples. Then it would be x of n times e to the power minus j. So omega is now replaced with k times 2 pi by capital N, and what we had over here, n. Am I right? Or sometimes this formula is written like this: summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi upon capital N nk. So it is written in this way, and let me tell you, whatever formula that we have derived, which is the alteration from DTFT, is what we called as DFT. So this is a DFT formula that I have written right now. So this is the formula for DFT. And let me tell you, whenever you solve this, you will always get a function of k, and therefore this is equal to x of k. So now x of e to the power j omega has now become simply x of k. Let me write the final formula. X of k equal to summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi by capital N nk. So this is the formula for DFT, that is discrete Fourier transform. Whereas if you want inverse discrete Fourier transform, we have a formula for the same. So inverse discrete Fourier transform will help you to get x of n back from the given x of k. So duty of inverse discrete Fourier transform is to get x of n from x of k. So of course we will have x of n in terms of x of k. It is simply 1 upon k summation k varied from 0 to of course n minus 1. X of k was given, and the same exponential thing with positive power, that is e to the power j 2 pi by capital N nk. Now this is the formula for inverse discrete Fourier transform. These two formulas are very important, because whatever sums that we will solve, we should know these formulas. Until and unless those formulas are not known to us, then it becomes a problem. And let me do a small correction here. We don't have k here. What we have over here is n, where n indicates number of samples. Fine. So whatever would be the mathematical tool, if you want to become comfortable with any tool, then The only solution is to solve a problem based on the same. So let's try to solve one problem and then we'll become comfortable with this. So the question is, find discrete Fourier transform for the given signal x of n, which is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is x of 0. So what is given to me is x of n, and I want a discrete Fourier transform for this. So in turn, what I want is x of k. Remember, just count the number of samples in x of n. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we come to know that capital N value equal to 4. So it is a 4-point sequence. Please remember, if we have 4 points in x of n, then we will have even 4 points in x of k also. Let me write x of k formula. This is equal to summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi by capital N nk. Am I right? Now tell me, since n value is known to me, it is equal to 4. Let me just substitute it. So x of k has become n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j. Since n value equal to 4, after substitution, what I get is pi by 2 times nk. Am I right? And you know what? Since n value is equal to 4, and since I have to vary my n from 0 to n minus 1, I would keep my upper limit equal to 3. Is that right? Now, simply, I know that if we have total 4 samples in x of n, then even after transforming, we will have only 4 samples in x of k. And it is true vice versa also. Let's say if you have to go for inverse discrete Fourier transform, and let's say if x of k is given to you with, let's say, 5 samples, then after inverse discrete Fourier transform, in x of n also you will have 5 samples only. So please remember, in x of n as well as in x of k, number of samples are always same. So since I know that n value is equal to 4, I would be varying my k from 0 to 3, so as to get what? X of 0, x of 1, x of 2, and of course x of 3. Is that right? So let's do this. Let me write my x of k. So x of k that I had for summation n is varied from 0 to 3, x of n e to the power minus j pi by 2 nk. Now let k value equal to 0. So in a way it has become x of 0, and this is equal to summation n equal to 0 to 3 x of n as it is. Try to understand, if I substitute k value equal to 0, this k will become 0. In turn, this will become e to the power 0. So it will become 1. So it is simply x of 0 is equal to what? It is summation of all samples present in x of n. Is that right? So if I expand this, x of 0, it's simply x of 0 plus x of 1 plus x of 2 plus x of 3. So we know that it is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is equal to 10. So I got first sample in frequency domain, which is equal to 10. So I got x of 0. Now I want x of 1. So let us substitute k value equal to 1. If I do so, then it would be x of 1, which is equal to summation n is varied from 0 to 3 x of n. Now e to the power, since k value equal to 1, it will become e to the power minus j pi by 2 times n. Am I right? Therefore x of 1 will now become x of 0 e to the power 0 plus x of 1 e to the power minus j pi by 2 plus x of 2 e to the power minus j pi plus x of 3 e to the power minus j 3 pi by 2. Is that right? So now value of x of 0 is 1 plus x of 1 value is 2, but e to the power minus j pi by 2 is minus j plus 3. Then e to the power minus j pi is simply minus 1. And last, we have x of 3 value equal to 4, but e to the power minus j 3 pi by 2 is simply j. So let us solve this. You get x of 1 equal to minus 2 plus 2j. So this is the value for x of 1. Now let me go for x of 2 by substituting k value equal to 2. So I'll get x of 2 equal to summation. Again n is varied from 0 to 3. X of n e to the power minus j n pi. Am I right? Because since k value is equal to 2, here this 2 and this k which is also equal to 2 will get cancelled. Then it would be e to the power minus j n pi. And let me tell you, e to the power minus j n pi is actually minus 1 to the power n. So what we have, x of 2 is equal to summation n equal to 0 to 3 minus 1 to the power n times x of n. Am I right? Let me write that x of 2 again. This is equal to summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1 minus 1 to the power n x of n. Let us now vary your 0. Let us vary n equal to 0 to, of course, 3, because n minus 1 is equal to 3. In a way, it will become x of 0 minus x of 1 plus x of 2 minus x of 3. What have you noticed? Suppose if we have this kind of expression, that is minus 1 to the power n x of n, then it is simply alternative subtraction and addition of all the samples present in x of n. I repeat, it is simply equal to alternative subtraction and addition in alternative manner. As you can see, first of all, we have negative, then positive, then negative, and positive, and again negative if further samples are also present. So this is simply equal to 1 minus 2 plus 3 minus 4. Am I right? So after solving, you will get x of 2 equal to minus 2. And then last value, substituting k equal to 3 will give you x of 3, which is equal to n is varied from 0 to n minus 1, where n minus 1 is of course equal to 3. Let us substitute this equal to 3. It is simply x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi by capital N, where n value was equal to 4 and the value of k is equal to 3. Alright, so I'll leave it up to you. You can solve this simply, and whenever you solve it, you'll get answer this way, that is x of 3 equal to, it is minus 2 minus 2j. So you can confirm this answer as x of 3 by simply solving this summation. So now I'm going to tell you observations. So whatever sum that we have solved, I'm just going to tell you important observations. So very first observation, x of 0 is equal to summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1. If you remember, when we have solved x of 0, we got the same formula. Am I right? So you know what, if you want to calculate x of 0, just add all the samples present in x of n. I repeat, whenever you want capital X of 0, and let's say if x of n is given to you, then just add all the samples and that is straight away the value of x of 0. So this is the important note to be known. Secondly, x of n by 2, where n indicates number of samples present. So if you want to have x of n by 2, it is simply summation n equal to 0 to again n minus 1 minus 1 to the power n x of n. And if you actually expand this, you will get this way: x of 0 minus x of 1 plus x of 2 minus x of 3. As you can see, it is nothing but a combination of additions and subtraction alternatively. So if you carry out this, then you will get direct answer, but it should be x of n by 2. In our case, if you remember, n value was 4, and if n value was 4, then this formula is applicable for x of 2, which would be equal to x of 0 minus x of 1 plus x of 2 minus x of 3. You can verify from the previous sum that we have solved, we got similar thing. But then I can declare this as a in general formula for x of n by 2. Third observation, you can see the value of x of k is always equal to x conjugate of n minus k. Once again, x of k is always equal to x conjugate of n minus k. For example, let k value is equal to 3. The reason why I'm taking k value equal to 3, because in the last example I gave you this as homework to calculate x of 3. So let us substitute k value equal to 3, then x of 3 is equal to, it is x conjugate of n minus k. In the previous example, the value of n was equal to 4, so 4 minus 3 has become 1. This is simply equal to x conjugate of 1. If you remember, x conjugate of 1 means x of 1 was, as you can see, x of 1 was minus 2 plus 2j. So minus 2 plus 2j will have conjugate as minus 2 minus 2j. So this is how we get x of 3 directly if x of 1 is known to you. Is that right? So this is the third and important observation you should remember, that x of k is always x conjugate of x of n minus k. Now to understand the fourth observation, it is x of 0, which is always equal to 1 by n. K is varied from 0 to n minus 1 x of k. So from where this has come? So I'll tell you. If you know the formula of inverse discrete Fourier transform, so what was the formula? X of n is equal to 1 upon n summation k equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of k e to the power j 2 pi by n nk. Is that right? This was the formula. Let us substitute value of small n to be 0. In that case, this x of n turns out to be x of 0, which is equal to 1 upon capital N. As you can see, it is varying from k equal to 0 to n minus 1, x of k as it is. And you know what? Since n value equal to 0, this n has become 0. In turn, this has become e to the power 0, which is 1. So we have this kind of formula which you should remember. Even we can do this with discrete Fourier transform formula also. Let me remind you, discrete Fourier transform formula was x of k, which is equal to summation n is varied from 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi by capital N and k. Let k value equal to 0, then this is capital X of 0, it is equal to summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n as it is. And since k value equal to 0, this k value has become 0, it has become e to the power 0 again, and this is simply equal to 1. As you can see, This is the first observation that we have already seen. That is, capital X of 0 is always summation of all the samples present in X of n. Am I right? See the first observation. So I have derived the first observation also. In fact, if you want to get X of capital N by 2, then we already have the value of X of k. So in the place of k, just substitute capital N by 2 and solve it. You will get even the second observation also. I hope you understood all the observations. So let me remind you what observations we had so far. These observations are very important. First observation that we have seen was capital X of 0 is simply summation of all samples present in X of n. And also we have seen X of 0 is equal to 1 by n. Again, your k is varied from 0 to n minus 1 X of k. Let me tell you, these two things are called as central ordinate theorem. Second, what we have seen is capital X of n by 2 is always equal to summation n is varied from 0 to n minus 1 minus 1 to the power n X of n, which is nothing but alternate subtraction and addition of X of n samples. Third, what we have seen is X of k is always X conjugate of n minus k. Please don't forget this. This is very important to remember. So if these properties are known to you, then let me tell you, it becomes very easy for you to solve this problem very quickly, because how to solve the problem for DFT traditionally we have already seen by finding X of k for the given X of n signals having samples as 1, 2, 3, 4. Imagine for 4-point sequence, if it takes so much time, what is going to happen when they give you 6 samples or 7 samples and so on. Let's try to solve this problem. 3 DFT coefficients out of 5 DFT coefficients are given as, so they have given X of 0, X of 1 and X of 3. Let's try to solve this. So capital X of k, out of which X of 0 is 4, X of 1 is 1 minus 1j, comma, X of 2 is missing, as you can see, X of 3 is given, which is 2 plus 2j, and they have declared that it is a 5-point DFT. Is that right? So if it is 5-point DFT, then one more sample is absent. Am I right? So this kind of X of k they have given, and what they want is, they want a 0th value of sequence of X of n, which is X of 0. So what they want is X of 0. And by central ordinate theorem, we know that X of 0 is 1 upon n summation k is varied from 0 to n minus 1 X of k. But for that, all values of X of k should be known to you. So let us use one more property where we know that X of k is always equal to X conjugate of n minus k. Is that right? So don't forget, when they are saying it is 5-point DFT, it means the value of n is equal to 5. So very first point, we should know that capital N value equal to 5. So tell me, I would say this is what? X of 0, this is X of 1. What is not known to me is X of 2. So let us assume k value equal to 2 in order to get the value of X of 2, which is equal to X conjugate of, now n is equal to 5. So it is 5 minus 2, it is X conjugate of 3. And you know what? X conjugate of 3 means conjugate of 2 plus 2j, which is equal to 2 minus 2j. Am I right? Similarly, we don't know what is the value of X of 4. So let us substitute value of k equal to 4. In a way, it has become X of 4 which is equal to x conjugate of. So it is n minus k, value of n is equal to 5. 5 minus 4, it is x conjugate of 1. And since x of 1 is 1 minus 1j, its conjugate is 1 plus 1j. Finally, we know all values of x of k. That is, we know all the samples which are present in x of k. So let me remind you the formula. What we want is x of 0, which is equal to 1 upon capital N. And what is the value of n? It is 5. Summation. K is varied from 0 to n minus 1. So k is varied from 0 to 4. And we have x of k. Is that right? Now this is equal to 1 by 5. And in the bracket, we have x of 0 plus x of 1. And we have to go up to x of 4. Is that right? Now each and every value of x of k sample is known to me. So let me just write it. It is 4 plus x of 1 is 1 minus 1j. Value of x of 2 is 2 minus 2j. Value of x of 3 is 2 plus 2j. And finally, the value of x of 4 is 1 plus 1j. Am I right? Here minus 1j, 1j gets cancelled. Minus 2j, 2j gets cancelled. So what is remaining? Let us add them. So it is 4 plus 1, it is 5, plus 2, it is 7, then 7 plus 2, it is 9, plus 1, it is 10. So it is 10 by 5, which is equal to 2. Finally, what we have is x of 0 equal to 2. Let us see the options. So value of x of 0 they were asking you for, and it is equal to 2. From option B, it is verified. I'm sure now you have understood what was the motivation of DFT and how to use the formulas of DFT and IDFT along with the important observations. Please remember, if those important observations, if you could by heart, it is quite easy path for you to solve the problems based on DFT. Thank you.